Hey, you trying to steal? You trying to get into the beer case? We drank it all. There's nothing left. Hey, that's not fair. Hey, didn't leave you one beer? Not one beer? That's horrible. Imagine that, not leaving your cat a beer. Anyway, okay. Alrighty. So, maybe I'll take one of these. And so you're watching a movie, okay? And you see the first one comes out. Okay, that's pretty good. Yeah, I like that. Can't wait till the sequel comes out. The sequel comes out, like, wow, man, that sequel was just awesome. It was like, woohoo, did you see that? Woo. And then the third one, oh, I can't wait till the third one. Third one comes out, like, it's kind of, okay, they just kind of did what they did in the sequel. I mean, they needed to change it up a bit, you know? And that, I guess, is the way you could put the, ooh, that's cold. Whew. Pretty much the way you could put the American, the third debate. So, first debate, everyone's saying Donald Trump needed to take off the gloves. Second debate, whoa, did you see that? Third debate is kind of like, didn't really tell us anything new. And again, who won? Oh, that's going to be, wow, this person won, that person. I don't think that you have to look at it who won. It's because you have to look about it, who didn't scare you the most? I think is a better question. As a Canadian watching for my poor dear American brothers and sisters down there, and I was just talking to a good friend of my mom's that mom's passed away there, but she calls from time to time and whatever. Lady, I keep the little trap there, there's something eating the bottom of her trailer, like, I don't know, I think it's porcupine, but anyway, so I was just talking to her, and we talked a little bit of politics. Even, I mean, there's an older lady, probably very left-leaning, and, you know, usually they're freaking crazies down there. Like, what's this whole, did you watch those debate things last night? You know, I said, yeah. I said, yeah. I said, she goes, was it as good as the second one? I was like, no, it wasn't as good as the second one, but, you know, it was what it was, right? But everybody's kind of tuned in on this, and everybody kind of knows what's what. Now, anybody, I think the people that, you know, I'll use this lady as an example. Like, all she gets to see is the mainstream media, but she knows something is not right, you know. And they're asking, what do you think of this guy? What do you think of that guy? And I said, well, I don't like either of them, to be honest with you. But here's what this person's doing, and here's what this person. I said, this is the crazier of the two, and Hillary Clinton is definitely the crazier too. There's no doubt about that. If you look at it non-biased, if you're already in your corner and that's it, no, Hillary's the greatest, no, Trump is the greatest, there's nothing I can do. And that's not my point isn't to say who you should or should not vote for. I'm just saying, here are your options. That's more where I'm saying. This is what you're going to have to live with for the next 4 years. You know, if we even make it that far, it's hard to say. That's crazy with the world. But anyway, case in point is people know that the mainstream media isn't telling you everything, even if they don't know how to ask, type of thing. But they're looking for other people's opinions. Okay, something's not right, you know, like, because normally it'd be like, okay, well, I'm for this person because this policy, that type of thing, and whatever. But you don't get that. People are saying, okay, well, they're just, the media is so in favor of Hillary Clinton. According to the CBC, the New York Times put out that Hillary Clinton was 92%. At first it was 91%. Now it's up to 92% in the lead of Donald Trump. And then CBS and all these left-wing, the LA Times, I think it had it like a 52 or 54 or something like that. All in favor of Clinton. All in favor of Clinton. Now, the thing is polls are being as unreliable as they are. Yeah, it was like, we saw it here in Canada, not this election, but the election before, where the NDP was supposed to, like, completely sweep, and then, you know, Harper ended up with a majority government, and, you know, like NDP like lost a whole bunch of seats. And again, these polls, you have to understand, they're coming from biased sources to begin with, so of course their outcomes are going to be kind of predictable, you know. The ridiculousness of their outcomes, like 92% from the New York Times. Okay, we know the New York Times is on the left. What questions would they have been asking the Democrats to make sure that 92% of the Democrats that they polled would say yes? But what scares me is there's 8% of Democrats that they probably polled that they said, no, we're going to go vote for Trump. You know what I mean? If they vote, it seems like that's what they do, is they put as many Democrats in the polls as possible to get a Hillary-leaning poll, right? It just seems that that's the way it is. I don't know what New York Times did, but how they got 92%, I'm like who still keeps their job after that kind of BS, right? It's like, anyway. So, points to be made. Hillary Clinton, yeah, she held her own, and the woman can debate, that type of thing. I mean, because she's so good at lying and manipulating that, you know, it doesn't really matter what you say to her. You know, it doesn't ruffle the feathers because she simply does not care. She made some points, okay, fair enough, but not too many. She's not believable, in my opinion. Her plans are not believable. In fact,
The moderator, actually, I think he did quite well. Yes, he was a little more cutting off Donald Trump than Hillary Clinton, but he cut her off a few times too. So I wouldn't say he was as bad as Anderson Cooper and the other lady, but or like in the first debate where they were, completely whatever. But I mean, if you look outside the mainstream media, like trust me, they're being. You take Megyn Kelly for example. She's almost going to lose her show because her ratings have dropped below Rachel Maddow, the man boy. Yeah. And I mean, I don't watch CBC or CBX or Fox or NBC or CNN. I don't watch those. I tolerate the CBC as much as I could tolerate. That's pretty much all I got up here in Canada. But you can get the other ones like Fox and stuff like that. And I don't really watch them because I know if you watch one, you're just getting the same flavor. Same spin, different flavor, that type of thing from these channels, because they're all owned by the same guy, right? Rupert Murdoch, who pretty much in line with the oil companies and the Rothschild, Rockefeller, the banking and whatever. So this guy's going to spin it how he's going to spin it, and then we got the big guy here in Canada with the CBC, and again, all these Zionist neocons that own everything, they're all in favor for Hillary. The system wants Hillary. But that said, Trump has raised more money for the GOP in recorded history, something like 380 million or billion or whatever the hell he raised. It's a record. And there's so many firsts with Trump's. First time being endorsed by ICE. The most military endorsements of any candidate, maybe with the exception of Ron Paul, but across, like including generals and everything, yeah, like Trump is way ahead. The rallies, just look at the rallies. I mean, a Trump rally is always sold out. You have the sold out on the inside and 3 times the amount of people on the outside wanting to get in. Hillary Clinton can barely pack 1,000 people in a stadium. So the evidence seems to really, maybe Trump has not quite got the steam. Yes, there's going to be biases on his side that are making his polls look bigger than what they are, but there's a lot more stuff to support his side. So to really get a non-biased poll is almost impossible because if you use the Nanos poll or Angus Reid up here in Canada, they're all left-leaning. Use the Pew Research or what's the other one? Use those ones in the States. They're left-leaning, right-leaning, whatever. And their findings correspond to their biases. So you don't really have a non-partisan, non-biased poll. So you really can't trust the polls. The polls are there is to manipulate the undecided voter. Oh, well, everybody, if 92% of people want Clinton, well, she must be pretty good because, if only 8%, he's got to be pretty bad if 8%. But then again, the people will probably, if he's only got 8%, I want to hear what he has to say to be to be so bad. Donald Trump, yeah, he's a loose cannon. And a lot of people, I think, are like, saying, just playing political correctness because they figured that everybody hates Donald Trump so much. So it's a probe. You got to take it to the probe. Oh, that Donald Trump, isn't he just such a wild card? What a crazy person, isn't he? Hey, what do you think of him? Hint, hint, wink, wink. No, he's fine. Really? Why do you think he's fine? Just tell me. I want to know because I need to know the answer on that one. And then A, B, C. Have your argument ready. And a lot of people are like, oh yeah, okay, yeah. So yeah, Clinton's as bad as I thought she was. Yeah, it's just it's. But people are asking questions. It's kind of cool because I started this video and then the call came and then I was talking to. That lady there, because, she's kind of like a part of the family. She's not related, but she's kind of like a part of the family. She was a close friend to my mom before my mom passed away and stuff like that. So she still calls sometimes. She just lives up the road, right? So, but anyway, she started asking, well, what's with this Benghazi thing? What's that? What's that about? What's that? Because the mainstream media won't talk about it. Like, what's all this scandal that, because, the mainstream media say, well, she's under scandal and under this, but they don't talk about it, right? So people are like, well, what is it that, what's the scandals that Donald Trump is talking about all the time and stuff like that? So Donald Trump, yeah, he definitely, held his own. There's no doubt about that. I think both candidates kind of held their positions. They're both backed in their corners. They're both fighting for air here. They don't have a choice, right? So it's all or none. It was like an adult version of the second debate where they didn't shake hands when they came out on stage. I think that's a first too. I don't know. You guys tell me. I've never seen a debate where a presidential or a prime minister debate where they didn't shake hands at the beginning or at the end. That's kind of like that tells you the gloves are off. But I think they both avoided debating a bit more. The commentator asked 6 big questions. I think. I watched it 6 or 7 big questions, or whatever it was, and each candidate got 2 minutes to respond each, and then crosstalk for 15 minutes on each thing. On healthcare, Donald Trump, what his plan is basically get rid of Obamacare, privatize things, get competition going, let the states make more of a judgment call, more autonomy there of what they want to do with their healthcare and stuff like that. But get rid of Obamacare. Hillary Clinton doubled down on Obamacare. So right there on the Obamacare issue, I'd give that one to Trump because Obamacare, the premiums have went up so much, and I think by next year they're going to go up by 100%. They've already went up by 50 some odd percent. They're going to go up by 100%. So that's it, and you're getting less and less and less. Obamacare is a failure. It was designed to destroy the economy. That's very clear. Why? Again, you can't have a Rothschild one world currency if you don't destroy everybody's economies. Again, this stuff is orchestrated, believe it or not. So Hillary Clinton's saying, well, we're going to do this, this, and this, and we're going to spend more money. In case they haven't looked, you haven't looked, but the United States has no money. It's broke. It's beyond broke. It's $20 trillion in debt. $20 trillion doesn't even exist on 10 planets, let alone one. Let alone the 240 trillion in assets that will, if the economy tanks, it's going to be pretty much catastrophic failure globally. So she's not believable there. I mean, it's not, but she's a woman and she needs to be the first, the first woman president because that's more important than anything. If you're voting on that, well, you're going to get what you deserve, that type of thing. So you can't go on that. On jobs, this is a big one. I think hands down, even Canadian investors here, the CBC, they reported this with reluctance. I could tell. There's a Hillary flying around. They're in favor of Donald Trump. They're like, yeah, Canadian investors, they want Donald Trump in. They're like, he's going to be so much better for business. It's true. Now, Donald Trump isn't going to be the America First guy you think. Hillary Clinton is just going to be a debt cow. That's all she's going to be. But her economic plan is tax the wealthy 1%. Well, the wealthy 1%, you can tax them a bit more, but they're only 1% of the population. They don't pay enough tax to float all the other stuff. Austerity is going to be needed. You are going to have to balance your budget through austerity. You'll have to do some stimulus to the point, but all Hillary Clinton is talking about is massive stimulus, meaning Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, the Federal Reserve, all the Rothschild banks. That's why they want her in there. She's basically talking about all these Fortune 5, Monsanto, the same, Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, all these, same people all the time getting the bailouts, these big corporations. That's what she's for. She's the Trans-Pacific Trade Partnership. Oh, well, when I read it, I wasn't in favor of it, so now it's not the gold standard. It didn't meet my criteria. No, she's just backtracking. She's backtracking because she got caught. Otherwise, like Justin Trudeau up here in Canada, who's trying to put through CETA, trying to put through the Trans-Pacific. That's all they talk about. Trust me, Trans-Pacific Trade Partnership is full bore in Canada here. That's all the Liberals are talking about, getting that passed. Where's the transparency? Well, they'll show it to you when it's done. That type of thing. CBC, where's the criticism? Nothing. Trudeau passed, right? That type of thing. So we saw this in Australia with their candidate, how the media went to bat for their new candidate to overthrow their guy, their conservative guy. Canada, the media did the same here. In the States, the media is doing the same there. They're all putting in their leftist. The problem is Clinton, Justin Trudeau is a socialist, fascist, in the sense, and I know a lot of people, but he's left-leaning. But he's still more socialist than fascist, left-leaning, where the conservative government that we had, and I know people call me out on this all the time, they were socialist, fascist, slightly leaning to the right. We still have tons of socialism in Canada, and you have big business and government in bed together. You have fascism. The States is kind of in the same predicament. The only problem is they're bypassing socialism in the States and going to go right to communism. They're talking about the universal income. Yeah, in other words, you won't be able to, whether you work or not, you won't be able to make more or make less. Now, a universal income is going to benefit some people, very few. The masses, no, that's a death sentence for you. Oh, yeah, but they're going to give us 20 grand a year. Okay, maybe you're, like, I don't make 20 grand a year myself. Okay, that sounds nice. Yeah, okay. But there's going to be strings attached to that. You better get your vaccines or you don't get your paycheck. You better get this or you better get that or you don't get your paycheck. And 20 grand isn't, what if you have the potential to make more than 20 grand a year? Well, you're not allowed now. Why? Well, that'll be racist and bigot if you make more money than somebody else. You need equality. Communism is about equality. It's going to work this time. You know what I mean? That type of thing. So that's what the setup is. And that's the setup because, and again, where does this money come from? That's the first thing. If you want a universal income, fine. The first thing is, this is how we're going to fund it. You're not going to fund it from the one percenters because you're not going to have one percenters for very long. There will be no middle class. That'll kill the middle class. Innovation will die. I mean, which is kind of what they want. They want people. They want everybody living in grass huts. They don't want people that can ever challenge their authority. That type of thing. That's what these people really want. And it's very clear if you follow them long enough, you get the idea of what they're after. So that's Hillary Clinton's economic plan. Trump's economic plan, and before I get into that, understand that the announcer said that both people were like, they said Clinton's economic plan was going to add $40 trillion to the to the deficit, and Trump was going to add something like $100 trillion to the deficit. And Trump was like, no. He says, who the hell have you been talking to? Type of thing. Trump's plan is simple. Deregulate whatever you can. Deregulation is always cheaper than regulation. That's just a no-brainer. Now, where does he deregulate? That I don't know. That's the details, the devil in the details, I don't know. But opening up competition from state to state, yes, that will drop wages at first, but it opens up potential for wealth and employment, which right there, you got to say Trump has it hands down. If you have, like, for example, here in Quebec, it's almost all but illegal to work unless you get a competency card. They really crack down on people, so it forces people to have to work under the table. And when they work under the table, they can't get good wages, that type of thing. So, right to work, I'm all for right to work. I don't care if there's a union as long as there's a privatized union. I don't think government should be unionized at all. That I think is a scam on the taxpayer. If we need you, we'll keep you. If we don't need you, we'll let you go. Government used to be, basically, and that's the way it was before Jean Chrétien and before Pierre Elliott Trudeau, Justin Trudeau's dad, was government, okay, well, we need to hire a bunch of people for 6 weeks worth of work, and then after that, go find something else. And there was always like these government contracts, and you'd see people go from department to department. There's always something different going on each year. But it was limited. There wasn't this massive, crazy, insane government size that we have now. From the 1970s to now, government is just inflated to ridiculousness to make work jobs, and which is killing the economy, killing the private sector. And this is the same thing that's happened in the States. So what Donald Trump is talking about, one thing I haven't heard him talk about is austerity, which is needed. Now, maybe he's playing that card close to his chest because nobody likes to hear the word austerity, and if you want to kind of, I'm not saying government workers are stupid, but I'm saying that a lot of government workers, that's the word that they look for, is austerity, meaning job cuts in the government. So that said, in order to balance the budget, Donald Trump's out there saying you can balance the budget in 4 years, which anybody can balance the budget. You can balance it in the first day in office, sure. But at what cost? You know what I mean? How many people are, your economy is going, you're what, going to fire, 82% of the government? That, sure, now what are you going to do for unemployment? It's like that type of thing. So can it be done? Sure, anything can be done. How he's going to do it, that I don't know. I don't think he can. I think it's just too rigged to be able to do that. I think he could do it. I think he can move the ball in the right direction to take down the debt. Slowly start taking away the stimulus. Let one too big to fail per month fail for 4 years. You could probably balance the budget. But then you have so many people unemployed, and it's just that'd be a disaster. And again, government employees, I don't hate those people. I think they should start looking for private sector jobs about now. Government is way too big for its boots. And again, if I'm ever prime minister in this country, trust me, it will be a balanced budget. And I'll work with the Canadian Taxpayers Federation. Start with there. Just get the surplus stuff. Get the foreign aid stuff. Start with that. You can balance your budget. That's where you start. You cut the stuff away from the country first and slowly work your way back. Slow down the debt. You know what I mean? And if they both admit that, talk about that, then that'd be more reassuring. Donald Trump is just focused on creating jobs, which, believe it or not, is not enough. It's a start in the right direction. And they have to be private sector jobs. And yes, you have to open up competition. And the best way to open up competition, for example, I'll use taxi cabbies here in Canada, and you can find whatever your equivalent is in the States. It's $130,000, $85,000 to $130,000 to get that plate on the side of the taxi cab to be a taxi cab driver. Uber doesn't do that at all. Uber's people are making money hand over fist, but Uber's pretty much not regulated. That type of thing. Why do we need to regulate the cabbie companies? You know what I mean? Let's let that go. Let's let that go. Okay, leave it up to the consumer to find who the reputable cabbie company is. Let them duke it out. Let free enterprise. If somebody wants to take their beater car, okay, should there be standards on the quality of the vehicle, the tires, the insurance, all that. Okay, if you catch people that don't have that, fine them, sure. You could regulate it to that, but everything else should be just cheap to do. There shouldn't be a big, maybe register them as a business. You know, if there's like a $10 fee fine or $60 fee is what it is now. I think it's $68 here in Quebec to register as a business, so like self-employed kind of business. The bigger the business, the more cost. But it shouldn't cost that much. It should not cost you a lot of money to just open up a business. When it costs tens of thousands of dollars just to get the permits to open up, the permits, I don't think you need permits for that. Regulation, sure. Okay, well, here you go. You meet the regulation. We'll send in government inspectors when we need them. Privatize the inspection, whatever. Okay, if you want to keep it under government control, you can do that. But get rid of the permits so people can, you know, if you have to spend $100,000 in permits to open up your restaurant, no wonder you go out of business in the first 5 years, you know. So if he's going to get rid of stuff like that, sure. Get rid of it. The other thing I would do is just do like what Sweden does, tax consumption, no personal taxes. Simplify the tax code. That's one thing Donald Trump is talking about. If there was a reason to vote for Trump, that would be one of the reasons. Here in Canada, we got taxes on taxes on taxes on taxes to the point where new taxes can just sneak in unnoticed, which makes it, I think we should simplify the tax code. I agree with that. We don't need to worry about this tax bracket or that tax bracket. Look, you want to buy a luxury car? We put 30% tax on it. You want to buy something to eat? No tax on it. You want to buy sugary items? We'll put a 15% tax on it. That type of thing. You know, categorize it. Tax consumption. That way, but you can only do that if you keep austerity at a minimum. You know, or use austerity to help balance the budget. But then your government has to live within its means. Right now, the debate here in Canada is healthcare. Now, getting the healthcare in the States, again, the healthcare down there is way worse off than ours right now. But we're heading in that direction. So what happens with the States if Donald Trump gets in? If his policies start working with healthcare, start working with the economy, and again, if you're bringing the jobs back, look, Trump has already met with leaders of Ford. I would love to have been a fly on the wall in that meeting. All of a sudden, the Broncos coming back from Mexico, and they're going to basically, I think it was the Bronco I heard, that they're going to start to manufacture again in the States. What did Trump say to them? You know, like, you know, again, bring those jobs back. You bring those jobs back. It's not going to work for Trump right away, and here's why. It's the same problem we had with the shipbuilding program up here in Canada. Harper came out and said, yeah, we're going to build new warships in Canada. It was kind of like what we were going to do with the Avro Arrow. And all of a sudden, when they went to hire people, it was like, well, nobody has those skills anymore. We have a service sector economy. So it's like, okay, we don't want to have to bring in temporary foreign workers. They brought in some. But they just can't get enough people to finish the damn boats. And then, of course, I think Justin Trudeau canceled that program. It doesn't matter because he already blew through that money anyway. Justin Trudeau is basically going through $10 billion a month. You know, above the budget. We're in trouble. You know, he was only supposed to spend $40 billion. Then it turned out to $80 billion. You know, it's like now it's like $1 billion a month. Add that up for 4 years. You know what I'm saying? That's 48 months plus. That doesn't include his stimulus plan. He hasn't started his stimulus plan yet. Ouch! Ouch! It's going to hurt us. But that's, you know, you vote stupidly. You're going to pay for it. So that, you know, so Trump, I think, has a better lead on the economy. You know, but he's going to have to do stimulus. There's no doubt about that. Some of the stuff he's talking about, making people in NATO pay their share, or he's not going to, or the States is not going to defend them. Yes, that will break up NATO because most people can't pay their 2 or 3% of GDP to NATO. And really, should we be sending that much to these foreign? You know, like, we don't need to be there. I'd rather take that 3% of GDP and put it back into our own military, not into NATO, because you know, you add 3% GDP to your military every year, your military is going to flourish. It'll be perfectly tailored to your country, believe it or not. But you need a nationalist government to get a non-intervention. A nationalist libertarian, believe it or not, is a bit of a contradiction. But nationalist libertarian, defend your borders, all means necessary, but you know, make sure that you've got non-interventionist policy, so you're not flying all around the world with all this foreign aid and war and stuff like that. That's like if Donald Trump gets out of the wars, that will collapse the economy, because the United States has a death and debt-based economy. So he has to ease out of the wars. Same with NATO and all that, because that's right now 53% of the GDP is spent on the military in the military-industrial complex in the States. So you take that GDP, bring it home. Great, that can go back into your health. You can have free health care for everybody for a good while on that. And free this, free that for a good while. But you could use that money to restructure and stuff like that. But the thing is because that's what's keeping the economy floating, so to speak, the private sector jobs aren't. If you pull that away too fast, the economy collapses. So Donald Trump has to keep the military-industrial complex going for probably a good while before the private sector economy can take over. And the best way is to start with the deregulation and stuff like that. So I think he wins there. Immigration. Hillary Clinton, yes. Open border, borderless society, the North American Union. Trust me, that's Justin Trudeau's full bore with that. There will be no more Canada, will be no more United States, no more Mexico. It's all going to be one. And then before you know it, all of South America, it's all one country. They just don't want to tell you. You know, we'll use the Amero everywhere. And that will kill sovereignty in all countries, bring down the labor in all countries, increase the crime, obviously, with the mass, again, all this mass immigration is not needed everywhere. Now, Hillary Clinton is for open borders. Now, she says, well, we're not just going to let people in that we can't vet, da-da-da. But they are. They're already doing that now. Under her watch, they were already doing that. Millions and millions and millions of illegals coming in, unvetted. You can't have that, or you're going to see what's happening in Europe. I mean, it's just a complete nightmare what's happening in Europe over there. That type of thing. So with that going on, you then have another problem where again, Donald Trump, everybody thinks he's going to close the borders. He's not going to close the borders. He's going to regulate the borders. Yes, he wants to build a wall. And when anybody bitches about the wall, just say, well, how come you're not offended about the wall that Mexico built to keep the Central America out? Or the one that's in Israel? Or the one that the Americans built in Jordan and, to keep, between Jordan and Syria. The Americans paid for that one. They paid for the one in Israel. So if you're going to sit there and say walls don't work, which I don't think is a good. I'd rather have more border agents and surveillance than the walls, because people are just going to climb the fence, and that's what they drive. Okay, the fences are 20 feet high on the U.S. border. This is where Donald Trump kind of is missing the boat here, and the fence eventually comes to the end where you just walk around the edge of the fence. Now, let's say you're far from that far end of the fence. They get these ramps. They drive the ramp, a pickup truck, to the top of the ramp with all these illegals, put ramps on the other. They literally drive. It's something to see. Like people driving SUVs and trucks over the wall. This big fence, like they just put 4 ramps. There you go. 2 to get up, 2 to get down. Couple guys got to get out to push to kind of teeter the vehicle over the top of the fence where it's high centered. You get the wheels going down the other side. Bob's your uncle. There you go. So that's one thing. I think tanks on the border would do better than stop, or if you cross that line, we're going to blow you out of the water. Make an example of a few people, they'll stop coming. The other one is you don't even have to build a wall. It's cheaper to cut the welfare, and it's easier to fine the people that hire illegals. Ron Paul came up with this idea. If you find somebody hiring illegal, fine them $10,000 per illegal. Trust me, they won't be able to get work. They'll go home. You don't give them amnesty. You don't give them anything. Now, what about the people, okay, would you give the amnesty to the dreamers and stuff like that? Well, the problem with that is you could probably say, okay, well, we'll let that slide. But from this day on, we don't care. This is the new policy. If you come across that border, we don't care if your child's born here. It defaults to the parents, and this is what I want to do in Canada so we get rid of anchor baby tourism, is if they have the baby and they're not a citizen, then the kid is not a citizen. And back you go. Country of origin. If you cannot come through the door legally, and that's all Donald Trump is saying, we're going to kick you out of the country, you come back legally, if we vet who you are through a proper immigration service, either you have borders or you don't have borders. Either if you have borders, you have a country. If you don't have borders, you don't have a country. Donald Trump is right on that. Hillary Clinton wants to open the borders. Donald Trump doesn't necessarily want to close the borders. He just wants people to come in legally. And I think that's a good argument. Will he deport people? Yes, he will. He makes the point. Yes, Obama's deported people. Mind you, he deports like German people or stuff like that. The odd Mexican illegal will get deported, but not like the way they should. Here in Canada, under Harper, we deported like 6,000 people a year. Or 1,800 to 6,000 people. I don't remember the number exactly. And these are people that did it illegally. That was the right way to go. So our immigration system was much better. The immigrants we were getting were of better quality. They were better standard. They had to meet some criteria. Justin Trudeau has torn pretty much everything the Harper government did on immigration down, which was actually pretty good. It was a world standard, although we're still bringing in way too many people here, 250,000 a year, now going to 500,000 people a year, way too much, not integratable, there's not enough economic wealth to be justifying these people coming in. But under the Harper government, the numbers weren't bad in the sense of at least 85% of the people come in were working people, that type of thing. 84% would stay. The rest were either students or whatever, family unification. But they limited family unification, so you're not bringing in grandma, grandpa, uncles, and nieces and nephews and all that. Which basically, is what Trudeau's doing. And that's going to backfire on us because we can't afford it. You know, you can bribe the people to get here, but even the Syrians that Trudeau's brought in, they're starting to, you know, the money's running out on them. You know, it's like, where's all this stuff you promised us? You know, and I say, I say, sorry, you got to go home. You know, they lied to you, too bad, but you got to go home. And I would do the same with the illegals in the States. There's no reason to be illegal in somebody's country. I think that's a disrespect to the country. I see it as treasonous. There's no reason why you can't come through the front door. Yes. Just go in, sign up, say, look, I'm here, I want to live here. Okay, go through the process, sure. And one thing Trump said, he's going to make it faster for people to become citizens. I'm okay with that. Harper did that. Why wait 10, 15 years to become a citizen? Okay, make a person a citizen in 2 or 3 years. That's reasonable. That's reasonable. But if we need you, we don't need you right now. In the States, they don't need any immigration right now. But the retirees, cut your military industrial complex, you can pay for the retirees. Here in Canada, I think I forget what the number they said on the CBC. If it's true, don't quote me on it, look into it for yourself. But healthcare in Canada, for example, 60% of GDP. 60%. So do we really need to be giving foreign aid out? You know what I mean? That type of thing. Do we really need to be giving billions of dollars to Israel? That type of thing. I mean, just cut your Israel funding. I mean, you'll save a whole bunch of people there. Save a lot of money there. So this stuff can be balanced, right? And not just Israel. Saudi Arabia, whatever. Get rid of all that. You know, turn the economy inwards. And when you turn the economy inwards, the overflooding of wealth will spill over into other neighboring countries, including Canada and the United States. Now, one thing I will agree with Hillary Clinton, what she was saying, like with the energy sector, you know, okay, she wants to be able to, you know, make it more free trade deals between Canada, the United States, and Mexico to get, like, you know, hydro and gas and stuff like that, which makes sense because the Americans buy pretty much 80% of our natural gas goes to the States. I forget how much of our hydro here in Quebec. If it wasn't for the States, like Hydro Quebec would, like we make a killing off of sending our power to the States. That type of thing. I'm okay with that. That's great cross-border trade deals. NUAPA would have been an okay idea. Where I draw the line is that it's got to be a fair system. Whoever has the highest regulation, we meet that. Whoever has the, you know, what you call it, the big pipeline, that the Gateway Pipeline or whatever, Northern Gateway Pipeline, or is it not that one? The one that Obama has been vetoing for years, that type of thing. That one I would kind of give up on. I'd give up on that because nobody seems to really want it. The natives up here in Canada don't want it. Most Canadians don't seem to be on board with it. Obviously, the Trudeau government's not on board with it. But I wasn't against the pipeline. I'm against where it goes. I mean, how many people's land, you know, do we really, you know, we're making more dependency on oil. That said, we're building pipelines like crazy in Canada. Even under Trudeau, I think we're actually building more. You know, believe it or not, it's just where it suits him, right? So, the new boss, same as the old boss. So I'm not against pipelines per se, that type of thing. But I think we need to do more than just build pipelines. Energy sector, okay, Hillary Clinton did make a point on that, and Donald Trump kind of agrees with let's keep the business flowing, make it easier to do cross-border business. Okay, but again, with standards, whoever has a high standard, let's go with that. Neither candidate has said that, so. But they are for cross-border thing. That said, with the cross-border thing, this is where the North American Union comes in. Where's that gray line where we still have sovereignty on our side? Again, whoever has the highest regulation, we should go with. But I don't really mind sending power all the way down, like hydro all the way down to Mexico if we want, you know, that type of thing. Or if they want to send gas up here or whatever, we don't really need any of it because we got more than we need. So that type of thing, it's sustainable here to a degree. That said, oil. Thermodynamic economics, I think is what it's called, is kind of showing that we're going to have to start to innovate pretty soon because we're not at peak oil, but give you an idea. In the year 1900, for every 1 barrel of oil you produced, you could get 10 more barrels of oil out of it or more, which was a pretty good profit margin. Now, for every 100 barrels of oil you produce, you get 1 barrel of oil out of it. So it's went in reverse. So the faster you can extract the oil, the easy oil has been pretty much all sucked up by the pumps, right? The faster you extract it, the quicker, the harder it is to make a buck off of it. And that's the problem with the oil. Like it's starting to operate in the deficit area now. So we need to either revamp. Wind and solar is actually worse than oil for efficiency. Like it's just the cost to put in a windmill versus the money you make per kilowatt hour. it's so much more expensive for the windmills, and they're not consistent. The best energy out there, far by none, for pollution, for anything, is hydroelectric. You cannot beat it. It's a big turbine in the water. Mother Nature powers it. Yes, you got to flood a lot of area, but water's a natural element. You're flooding. You're not really doing damage. You're not doing it. You're just creating a giant beaver dam that just happens to be able to power light bulbs. Is there problems? Yes, but Quebec has the lowest emissions in the world because we use mainly hydroelectric. Now, not everybody has that, so we need to find other things. Wind and solar, I think, are good on small scale, like farms and stuff like that, for the farm. Natural gas on farms, like pig farmers, they use the methane from the pig shit to basically run the farm. That's pretty much self-sustaining. Now, if we had a proper energy sector, they would basically promote that, self-sustaining. Rooftop gardens everywhere in the cities, solar and wind on all the buildings, and as many hydropower stations as you can get off of, that you could get. Nuclear power is good until something goes wrong. It's one of the safest to use, but when it goes wrong, you kill that area. You know what I mean? Thorium might be the future, but if we leapfrog over thorium, right now the next one is fusion. So if that's where they need to put their energy is fusion. And they probably already have fusion, it's just they don't want to make cheap energy for the people. Now, this is deeper than Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump, but their energy policies, I think, because one thing, they're probably going to be similar. It's just with Trump, it's going to be turned more towards the United States to make money, whereas with Hillary, the Fortune 500 companies get it, who are not going to get taxed, and they're making energy more expensive. You could see Ontario Hydro. You want to see an outrageous hydro bill? Live in Ontario. It's unbelievable what they're doing to the people down there. And that's, Hydro 1 is like ridiculous in Ontario. Here in Quebec, the hydro is still relatively cheap, but it's going up. It's going up. Like last year, I think they made, I forget how many $1 billion of profits in hydro, and they still put the bills up. And it's supposed to be a public utility, right? Yes, Kazoo. But anyway, you get the idea. So getting back to the debate, their policies on that, I think, pretty much speak for themselves. I still think Trump is in the lead on that. Defense. Well, I guess we'll finish on the defense. Now, they more talked about the blunders of Syria. And the points that Donald Trump made is, oh, you're all wet. Ew. Gazoo here. Yes. This is Gazoo. Check out my butt. Oh, you're not going to do the check out my butt thing? But anyway, the policies are simple. Basically, what's up, buddy? Basically, what Donald Trump says on Syria is pretty much dead on. You have basically the Russians. They asked Donald Trump, for the Russian hacking, do you denounce it? He said, well, it goes, of course I'm going to denounce anybody that's hacking us if you can prove it, so to speak. Right now, there's no proof that the Russians are hacking. Now, it does look like the United States is attacking Russia cyberly and stuff like that. They're already shutting down bank accounts in the UK. Assange's email in Ecuador is basically been cut off because rumors are John Kerry pushed the Ecuador a bit to do this. That type of thing, because it's too damaging for Hillary Clinton, right? And then, of course, you get Joe Biden out there saying that we're going to send a message to the Russians at the time of our choosing, and a message is being sent, and when the reporter asks him, are the American people going to know about it? He goes, I hope not. And not I hope not in a smug way, kind of I hope not like if the Russians react bad, we're going to be in a war. Again, these people are, and Hillary Clinton's stance on Russia, she toned it down a bit, but she knows what a no-fly zone is. She thinks she's going to negotiate Russia and the Syrian pilots are not going to be that much for the United States to take on because they're flying MiG-23s. You could shoot those things down pretty easily. Their newer MiG-29s, they only have a handful of them, so whatever. But Russian pilots are a different thing. Hillary Clinton is trying to sell to the people that, no, we're not just going to have a no-fly zone without talking to Russia. We're basically going to negotiate with Russia and then basically have no-fly zone. Explain to them it's in the best interest. Missy, Kazoo, you quit. Sorry, cats chasing each other. They've been scrapping for the last couple of days. Sometimes they do that. But anyway, the thing is that don't you be a bully. Yeah, shut up. And don't you be I'm watching the two of you. But basically saying that basically
Russia and Iran pretty much, they're taking Mosul. Well, Iran is helping the Iraqis take Mosul. Iran is going to get Iraq. The United States is getting booted out of Iraq. The Iraqi government doesn't want the U.S. there anymore. You're not going to hear that on the mainstream media. But the Iraqis have been threatened by the U.S. government that if you work with the Iranians too much, we're going to, there's going to be consequences. And I mean, how many more times can the United States punish Iraq for nothing? That type of thing. So the Iraqis are in a rock and a hard place. I think this battle of Mosul that happened, and remember, 9,000 jihadists were given safe passage by the U.S. government and, in Iraq to go out of Mosul to go towards Syria. And all of a sudden, bang, the Iraqis are attacking, I think the Iraqis probably done this themselves. And then, of course, to save face, well, they're being led by the U.S. coalition. I don't know. I have a suspicion that the Iraqis took charge on this one. And they probably took charge on it because they are coordinating with the Iranians. The Iranians aren't in there in full capacity, but they're there as advisors. And the Iranians are actually quite well, they're a lot better than what you think they are. They're probably one of the best militaries in the region, followed now by probably the Syrian army, or vice versa. Because the Syrian army now, you might as well say, is a Russian army because of the training that the Russians have given to Assad's army. So Donald Trump is hinting at it, and I don't know, most people who have half a brain have probably picked up. Donald Trump is going to work with Assad and Russia. That's what he's going to do. He hasn't said it out right there because he knows there's still people on the fence and they don't know what's really going on there. So he said, it would be nice if we could work with Russia on Syria. Hint, hint. It would be nice if that could happen. But Donald Trump said, yeah, the Iranians and the Russians, look, pretty much have overtaken Syria. They've got it, So, and really, let the Russians and the Syrians have it. The Syrians, it's their country. Let them, Syria was a nice place before the United States decided, with John McCain, decided to do regime change in there. Well, maybe not a great place, but it wasn't jihadi fest. It was a secular society. It was probably one of the more peaceful societies in the Middle East until, but there was protests, and Assad cracked down on his protesters, and then in comes George Soros money with John McCain, and in comes weapons. Next thing you know, you got a jihadist army. And now what they're trying to do is make these white helmets sound like saints. It's basically al-Nusra with white helmets on. There's enough footage out there. Again, it just keeps backfiring and backfiring and backfiring. It's just like the white helmets. They take a video, okay? They shoot the guy, and then a couple of guys come in and pick him up as if they're going to rescue him. But it's like the white helmet guy shoots him, and then the other two white helmets come in, and it's just bizarro world. It's Mad Max. It's like, oh my God. How did it get so bad? But it got so bad because of guys like John McCain with Hillary Clinton and Obama, and this goes all back to Bush's, Blair's, Obama's, Rothschilds, Rockefellers, Soros, Kissinger, Brzezinski, Clintons. It's the same cabal that always does this death and destruction. So if you've seen what a no-fly zone happened in Syria, or in Libya, a no-fly zone again, that's not going to happen. The Russians are never going to. They're never going to let the U.S. have a no-fly zone in Syria. The Russians have already established a no-fly zone in Syria. Now, one thing I will give that commentator is he brought out General Dunford's saying that a no-fly zone in Syria means direct war with Russia, and Hillary Clinton was trying to scapegoat it by, no, we're going to negotiate. Well, John Kerry's negotiation skills suck, number one. Number two, it's not what they want. They want the Odin Yan Plan, Greater Israel Project, and it's also about saving the petrodollar and a bunch of other things. So it's a no-brainer that, the Russians, they're not backing off of Syria. It's been their best live-fire training exercise they've ever had. They've tested out all their new equipment, much like the Spanish-German war just before World War II. Well, the Russians are right there doing the same thing. Again, getting back to my mom's friend there, you got a lady in her almost 70s asking me, what do you think of this Putin guy? And I explained, well, Putin's not a good guy, but he's the only one keeping us out of World War III. The fact that I have to explain that to a senior citizen, tells you how bad of a world we're living in right now. But I don't tell people this stuff until they ask about it. But it's getting to the point where people are coming to me and I get this from family members or something. I won't talk about politics or anything. The only time I talk about politics is on the thing. And I always, because I know that sometimes people want to hear it, sometimes they don't. But when they're ready to hear it, they'll ask, well, what's going on in the world? What's all these World War III things that you keep putting on your, are you doomsdayer? Are you No. I'm just following the politicians around the world, and this is where they have us. This is the real news. This is,
you're not going to hear the stuff I cover on the mainstream media. But the problem is it's starting to leak into the media. And remember what I talked about the guy with the tinfoil hat? You got him over here going, the mainstream media is like, hey, he's nuts, don't listen to him. Okay, he's right, but nothing to worry about. Then, we're all going to die. So we're getting to the point where the mainstream media can't even dodge, like lie by omission, just not cover it, And that's what they do all the time. Or they cover it 8 months later, that type of thing, like way past the fact, right? And bring it out as if they're the ones bringing it to you. It's like, like they're talking about WikiLeaks now. Who on my channel didn't know about WikiLeaks from day one? You know what I mean? Like they're making this guy sound like he just came out now. You know what I mean? That's the mainstream media for you, right? Because again, we can't tell the people the truth. Not that they can't handle the truth. It's like they'll come to grips with the truth. We're screwed. That type of thing. But Trump is right on Syria. The Iranians are going to take over. Let them. It's the Middle East. We don't need to be in the Middle East, period. Just because Israel wants us there to fight their battles for them? No. And that's exactly what it is. And I do have a harsh stance on the Israeli government. I have nothing against the Israeli people. If they want to defend their country, I'm all for that. If the Palestinians want to fight them, then, they got to work that out themselves. It's not up for us to play referee there. They have to work that out. We have no business to be in there. We had no business to be in Iraq, no business to be in Afghanistan. Name me one reason why we're in Syria. You know what I mean? Like that type of thing. No business to be there. But if you look behind the scenes, the petrodollar, the Odin plan, Greater Israel Project, that type of thing, then you start understanding that we're not looking at an accident in the Middle East. This is all orchestrated. Again, you listen to guys like George Soros. They tell you, Henry Kissinger and George Soros tell you everything that these psychopaths do. Who does Hillary Clinton take her marching orders from? Mr. Kissinger down at the UN building. Her own words. And she said it, if I'm president, we're going to go into Iran. That's Hillary Clinton's pretty much exact word for word. We're going to meet cyber attacks with military response. And who have they been picking on all week? Maybe the Russians are hacking. I don't know. There's no way to really prove that. But the fact that they know who hacked 5 minutes after, that tells you that it's a setup. Because hackers are not easy to find. They're not that easy to find. You can't find them like that. And the Russians would not hack from their own country. They're going to bounce it off servers all over the place. You'd be lucky if you can even figure out where the first server was. You're never going to find the state actor on this. So to me, that there's a bit of a red scare there. You know what I mean? It's a red herring. It's not real. But it is an excuse to set up to go to war with Russia. And this is clearly what the Clinton administration is in line with. So Trump is talking negotiation and peace. I don't know. Trump is going to be a wild card too if he were to win. There's no doubt about that. Because he is an authoritarian. There's no doubt about that. But I think he'll be good for economics. I think he'll be tough with military stances, saying, you do this or we're going to invade you. It's going to be cross this line and you die. And if and we'll send our men to come and kill you. Like that type of thing. It's going to be all or none with Trump. It's none of this no-fly zone. We're putting tanks on the ground and air cover. It's not no-fly zone. It's an air cover zone. The way a war would work. You get the guys in there. And one thing Trump keeps saying, and this also tells you how ISIS gets so lucky all the time. Stuff like that. Again, ISIS is a U.S.-funded, Israeli-funded proxy army, and other nations as well as the UK. About 40 different nations in Canada. I'm sure we're arming them too somehow. Basically, ISIS is the proxy army to fight Assad to overthrow him, that type of thing. And when you look at it like that, okay, it really does paint a picture that, okay, it makes sense what you're seeing. And the thing about that, too, is that to overthrow Assad, after that comes Iran, after Iran comes Russia and China. However, we're already at war with Russia. Turkey's a NATO ally, if you want to call them that, has shot down a Russian aircraft. The Americans have already attacked Russian officers and Syrian officers for an hour on end. I mean, it's got us close to moving towards the brink of war. We're at DEFCON 3. I mean, the things going on in Syria are very serious right now. Mainstream media barely covering it. They're covering it as much as they have to save the little bit of dignity and credibility. But the mainstream media, the reason why they keep losing viewers is once people get a taste of outside media, they're like, well, why isn't the mainstream media talking about this? They're non-objective at all. And then when you start looking at the policies, the foreign policies of Hillary Clinton, they're death and destruction all the way. And trust me, her stance on the no-fly zone is World War III in the making. It is definitely something that will get a lot of people killed. And again, we're not fighting Saddam's ragtag army in Syria. Trump knows this.
we'll be fighting Russian Federation. Russian Federation, I mean, people are still picturing 1950s and 1960s Soviet technology in Russia. They're not. They're state-of-the-art. They're digitized. They're this, they're that. And the numbers are there. Oh my God, it's raining. Want to go out? Go for a pee? I'm raining. Oh, let's go for a pee. So, ooh, that's slippy. Yeah, well, go for your pee. I didn't open that for you for nothing. Yeah, scoundrel. Hooligan. Make me open the door for nothing. But anyway, so you get the idea very clearly that, no, the banking system wants Hillary Clinton in, and they want more war. They need more war. That is the U.S. economy, death and debt-based economy. Take our currency or you get democracy JDAMs, and that's exactly what Hillary Clinton is proposing. So anyway, that's my take on the debate. I know I kind of go sporadic a bit and throw my country sensitive, but we're connected to the United States, so when they get a cold, we get pneumonia. So yeah. Anyway, I'll leave it at that. So watch the debate, think for yourselves. Leave it at that. So if you like this kind of content, please consider making a donation to the channel. Links down below. Thank you so much to everybody who has. Next time, rate, subscribe, share, comment, like. Be true to yourself. Be true to others. Always do the right thing. Have yourselves a great day, eh? Bouncy head. Always like to do that. Do I do bouncy phone or bouncy head? I don't know. You tell me. All right. Have a good one, all. Hey, hi, and welcome. My cat's trying to steal my dad's beer. Hey, you trying to get into the beer case? We drank it all. There's nothing left. Hey, that's not fair. He didn't leave you one beer. Not one beer. That's horrible. Imagine that, not leaving your cat a beer. Anyway, okay. Alrighty. So, maybe I'll take one of these. And, so you're watching a movie, okay? And you see the first one comes out. Okay, that's pretty good. Yeah, I like that. Can't wait till the sequel comes out. The sequel comes out. I was like, wow, man, that sequel was just awesome. It was like, woohoo, did you see that? Woo. And then the third one, I can't wait till the third one. Third one comes out, I was like, it's kind of, okay, they just kind of did what they did in the sequel. I mean, they needed to change it up a bit, And I guess is the way you could put the, that's cold. Pretty much the way you could put the American, the third debate. So, first debate, everyone's saying Donald Trump needed to take off the gloves. Second debate, did you see that? Third debate is kind of like, didn't really tell us anything new. And again, who won? Oh, that's going to be, this person won, that person. I don't think that you have to look at it who won. It's because you have to look about it, who didn't scare you the most? I think is a better question. As a Canadian watching for my poor dear American brothers and sisters down there, and I was just talking to a good friend of my mom's that mom's passed away there, but she calls from time to time and whatever. Lady, I keep the little trap there, there's something eating in the bottom of her trailer, like, I don't know, I think it's porcupine, but anyway, so I was just talking to her, and we talked a little bit of politics. Even, this is an older lady, probably very left-leaning, and, usually these freaking crazies down there. This whole, did you watch those debate things last night? And I was like, yeah. I said, yeah. She goes, was it as good as the second one? I was like, no, it wasn't as good as the second one, but, it was what it was, right? But everybody's kind of tuned in on this, and everybody kind of knows what's what. Now, I think the people that, I'll use this lady as an example. Like, all she gets to see is the mainstream media, but she knows something is not right. And they're asking, "What do you think of this guy? What do you think of that guy?" Well, I don't like either of them, to be honest with you. But here's what this person's doing. Here's what this person. I said, this is the crazier of the two, and Hillary Clinton is definitely the crazier two. There's no doubt about that. If you look at it non-biased, if you're already in your corner and that's it, no, Hillary's the greatest, no, Trump is the greatest, there's nothing I can do. And that's not my point isn't to say who you should or should not vote for. I'm just saying, here are your options. That's more what I'm saying. This is what you're going to have to live with for the next 4 years. If we even make it that far, it's hard to say. That's crazy with the world. But anyway, case in point is people know that the mainstream media isn't telling you everything, even if they don't know how to ask type of thing. But they're looking for other people's opinions. Okay, something's not right, because normally it'd be like, okay, well, I'm for this person because this policy, that type of thing, and whatever. But I get that people are saying, okay, well, the media is so in favor of Hillary Clinton. According to the CBC, the New York Times put out that Hillary Clinton was 92%. At first it was 91%. Now it's up to 92% in the lead of Donald Trump. And then CBS and all these left-wing, the LA Times, I think it had it like a 52 or 54 or something like that. All in favor of Clinton. All in favor of Clinton. Now, the thing is polls are being as unreliable as they are. It was like, we saw it here in Canada, not this election, but the election before, where
the NDP was supposed to like completely sweep, and then Harper ended up with a majority government. And, the NDP like lost a whole bunch of seats. And again, these polls, you have to understand, they're coming from biased sources to begin with. So, of course, their outcomes are going to be kind of predictable. The ridiculousness of their outcomes, like 92% from the New York Times. Okay, we know the New York Times is on the left. What questions would they have been asking the Democrats to make sure that 92% of the Democrats that they polled would say yes? But what scares me is there's 8% of Democrats that they probably polled that they said, no, we're going to go vote for Trump. You know what I mean? If they vote, it seems like that's what they do, is they put as many Democrats in the polls as possible to get a Hillary-leaning poll, right? It just seems that that's the way it is. I don't know what New York Times did, but how they got 92%, I'm like who still keeps their job after that kind of BS, right? It's like, anyway. So, points to be made. Hillary Clinton, yeah, she held her own, and the woman can debate, that type of thing. I mean, because she's so good at lying and manipulating that, it doesn't really matter what you say to her. It doesn't ruffle the feathers because she simply does not care. She made some points, okay, fair enough, but not too many. She's not believable, in my opinion. Her plans are not believable. In fact, the moderator, actually, I think he did quite well. Yes, he was a little more cutting off Donald Trump than Hillary Clinton, but he cut her off a few times too. So I wouldn't say he was as bad as Anderson Cooper and the other lady, but or like in the first debate where they were, completely whatever. But I mean, if you look outside the mainstream media, like, trust me, they're being. You take Megyn Kelly, for example. She's almost going to lose her show because her ratings have dropped below Rachel Maddow, the man boy. Yeah. And I mean, I don't watch CBC or CBX or Fox or NBC or CNN. I don't watch those. I tolerate the CBC as much as I can tolerate. That's pretty much all I got up here in Canada. But you can get the other ones like Fox and stuff like that. And I don't really watch them because I know if you watch one, you're just getting the same flavor. Same spin, different flavor, that type of thing from these channels, because they're all owned by the same guy, right? Rupert Murdoch, who pretty much in line with the oil companies and the Rothschild, Rockefeller, the banking and whatever. So this guy's going to spin it how he's going to spin it, and then we got the big guy here in Canada with the CBC, and again, all these Zionist neocons that own everything, they're all in favor for Hillary. The system wants Hillary, but that said. Trump has raised more money for the GOP in recorded history, something like 380 million or billion or whatever the hell he raised. It's a record. And there's so many firsts with Trump's. First time being endorsed by ICE. The most military endorsements of any candidate, maybe with the exception of Ron Paul, but across, including generals and everything, yeah, Trump is way ahead. The rallies, just look at the rallies. I mean, a Trump rally is always sold out. You have the sold out on the inside and 3 times the amount of people on the outside wanting to get in. Hillary Clinton can barely pack 1,000 people in a stadium. So the evidence seems to really, maybe Trump has not quite got the steam. Yes, there's going to be biases on his side that are making his polls look bigger than what they are, but there's a lot more stuff to support his side. So to really get a non-biased poll is almost impossible because if you use the Nanos poll or Angus Reid up here in Canada, they're all left-leaning. Use the Pew Research or what's the other one? Use those ones in the States. They're left-leaning, right-leaning, whatever. And they're finding